While I was meditating, all of a sudden I saw this image in my mind's eye. And the image was like of a tall, like building, almost like a skyscraper. And I saw this image then of an elevator. And this elevator, when I walked into the elevator to go up, I looked for the buttons. I couldn't find any buttons. And I'm like, where are the buttons? And then I realized all of a sudden, like, this isn't a normal elevator. This elevator is going to take me to the floor that matches my emotional state.
Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Ricksteins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Ricksteins. I'm your host, and we're joined by Anniston Blair Ricksteins, my co-host. And today we're going to be talking to you about really it's an extension of a conversation that we started with you last week. We'd initially planned to record a 4-part series speaking into some of the principles, practices that I teach, that I bring into people's lives within their organizations. And I am in the throes of launching the Empowered Life community. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could take some of the things we're going to be teaching in the community and then bring it onto the podcast, use it as a demonstration of the value of what you're going to get inside the community. And then as the creator works, there was just endless issues with the audio of all 4 of these recordings. And one of them actually went out and we had to pull it down and we had to turn around and it was a moment of frustration because everything that we had put in that we wanted to do and to achieve and the intention that we had set was so good. But we have to trust that it was not meant to be. And we didn't want to sacrifice the quality of the product for the content. And so we, instead of re-recording all 4 episodes, we sat back and said, interesting, if it didn't work, why? And so we thought, we want to really give you some more in-depth tactical tools, but we want to introduce them to you over the period of the podcast, not necessarily into 4 episodes, which is what we'd initially intended. And in case you missed last week's episode, we spoke about the value and the importance of being able to separate from heightened emotion so that you can get back to being your calm, centered self. We believe that in your highest and most powerful state, you are in what I call your centered self, that calm zero zone where you do not have this outside influence that's impacting who you are, how you show up. And you're then able to, from that vantage point of being completely calm and completely still, then being able to identify who are you? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And the value in that is just so big. And it profoundly impacted both mine and Anniston's life. And so when we were thinking about what would be the follow-up to that episode, Anniston said, oh my gosh, we can't have this conversation without this conversation. And so we're going to be bringing you to today's episode, and we're really excited to jump in.
Well, and something else I want to say and point out is, every moment is a teacher. Every single moment is a teacher. This podcast is just as big of a teacher for Rudi and I as it is for the thousands upon thousands of people who listen every week. And it is a constant lesson in, having an intention, showing up with that intention, creating from that intention, but then being willing to let it go and trust that what is meant to happen is going to happen. And if there's resistance, it's for a reason. And, this morning we had made the plan last night that after Rudi and I both were done with priming, we would meet in the living room at 6 a.m. and we would really hone in on what's coming up for us right now. What are we dealing with right now? because that's what we need to be talking about on the podcast, because our life seems to be a mirror for what other people are also going through. And so what we want to talk about today is actually very real for us, and it's a constant conversation, and we're constantly in a state of up-leveling our ability to do this. But let me tell you, what we're going to talk about today has the potential to radically shift your way of being, to radically shift your life. And I am not exaggerating here. It has been one of the, I would say, turning point learnings of my life, I can certainly say. And I think Rudi would probably agree with me there. And what we want to talk about today is learning and developing the ability to curate emotion. And what I mean by that is, rather than doing what we've always been taught to do, right? Which is what the ego loves to do, which is to look outside of yourself for, I need to find happiness. I need to find joy. I need to find pure bliss and ecstasy. I need to find more money. I need to find abundance. And so you busy yourself taking actions that you believe are going to lead to you feeling that way, or expecting other people to make you feel that way, when in essence, nobody can ever actually do that for you. So it is a unfortunate waste of time, and usually doesn't end with what you might get what you want, only to find it didn't give you what you thought it was going to make you feel. So then you just think you need more of that thing. Thus begins the hamster wheel of more. I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when. Many years ago, Rudi and I started to learn how to intentionally, every single day, curate internally the emotions that we want to experience. And in doing so, we fill ourselves up with those emotions. So thus, there is no lack of them. There's no need to find them outside of ourselves. And so the decisions that we're making, the things that we want to do, that we want to create, are coming from a very pure place, in a very aligned place to our spirit, our soul, our highest self, because it's not being skewed and distorted by thinking, oh, this thing is going to bring me that emotion, because I know I don't have to rely on someone else to give me that emotion. I have the ability to create my own emotion. And not only that, I think that there's so many things that we are empowered to do. And curating your own emotion, you're also like a positive emotion like gratitude, happiness, joy, peace. You're simultaneously signaling the inner pharmacy that is you to start to release these good feeling hormones like dopamine and oxytocin and all the things that we want, and that we work really hard to get, or we look for external substances and sources to give us. In doing the work to curate your own emotion, you're also doing the work to curate the ideal inner state for your body. Hey, it's Anniston Ricksteins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring, and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online, or click the link in the show notes.
Anniston said something that we hear so often in today's self-development world. And it almost makes my skin crawl every time I say it. And I would imagine every time you as the audience hear it, feel the same way. And that is, oh, this will absolutely change your life. Oh, this has the power, the potential to irrevocably change your life. That is now catchphrase terminology. But why I'm mentioning this is I really want to stress that what we're talking about on the Empowered Life podcast is something we've done. They say that you have to practice something for 10,000 hours to master a skill. And we have spent significantly more than 10,000 hours, Anniston and I, individually, honing what we're sharing on this show, because what we want to do is demonstrate to you the benefits and the effect of taking something that seems like a really simple concept. If we take last week's episode, well, we can all logically process and understand it's really important to separate yourself from emotion. Okay, well, yeah, I could see that. If I have heightened emotion and I'm feeling angry, resentful, frustrated, then yeah, I probably wouldn't make good decisions. Okay, great. I logically understand that. But how do you take that and put it into a practice that you can use in the moment? Because if let's say I'm having a moment and I'm in heightened emotion, Anniston comes to me and says, well, you really should calm down. Like, you're a 10, I need you down to a 2. That's going to make me angry, right? I don't need someone else externally to tell me how I should be in a moment when I'm losing the control of the emotion. But to internally be able to go in and tap into my emotional state and then identify that I am feeling a certain way, that I'm not the emotion, that I want to create separation from the emotion, and then release the emotion, come back to who I am as my centered self, and traveling that yellow brick road to get back to my most empowered self. Then deciding what direction do I want to go in. When we talk about this exercise being the opposite side of the same coin, meaning we couldn't have last week's episode conversation without this week's episode conversation, because you first need to identify you are not your emotions, and that your emotions are producing chemicals inside your body. Anniston mentioned it, the pharmaceutical factory that is producing all of the chemicals that operate and run your body are being essentially derived from emotions you're not in control of. But what if you could take control of the emotion? Could you then take control of the pharmacy? Could you then take control of how your body is going to react or respond? And this is why we're reversing this conversation and now saying, once you've taken your power back, once you've neutralized your emotional state, you've come back to yourself. Now you decide, who do I want to be? And that's why my priming process that I teach, I believe, to be so successful, is because it's teaching the practice and principle of realigning with yourself and then forecasting a dream, a goal, or a vision, or in this case, how do you want to feel? Something as simple as how do you want to feel? And if you can go into your mind, which you can, and you can attach yourself to an emotion and then create the imagery in your mind of something that would produce that emotion, your brain's now going to go from what it was creating chemically, which would now produce a different chemical emotion, and that's going to dump into the body, and you will start to feel a very different way. When you feel a different way, you start to think differently. When you think and you feel differently, your body produces a very different outcome, and then your direction of your life is going to be very, very different. Again, sounds like, yep, totally get it, makes all the sense in the world, but how do you do it when you're in heightened emotion? And that's why, if you didn't listen to the first part of this conversation last week, go back and re-listen to it. And then what I want you to do is learn, how do you now curate and or generate a heightened emotion? I mean, I could give you 1,000 ways to do this, but I want Anniston to share it because this really was her birthing. She had come downstairs one morning and said to me, oh my gosh, I was in a meditation and I just saw this scene, this image, and then she just went, blah, 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 which is something she does a lot when she comes out of a meditation. And we ended up taking what she had seen in her mind and creating a meditation, which is live on my website right now for free. If you want it, you can go and grab it for a limited time. We'll mark that as a free gift for you because I think it's just an invaluable tool. But when you listen to this, I do not want you to get caught up in the simplicity of what she received as a download. I want you to get excited for how simply you can create profound transformation in your life.
So if you listen to this podcast, you know that I get lots of ideas that are dropped in my head while meditating. And, I meditate a lot and I'm constantly validated in why I do that, because when I get out of the way and I start to just really relax and breathe and quiet my mind, I realize just how a creative individual I am and how open I am to receive inspiration as it comes. And oftentimes when it comes, for me, it comes as like a full package download. It's like I see a visual and then I get this understanding as if someone put a big gift on your lap and then you unwrap it and it's all there for you. And that's how I feel. So that morning, while I was meditating, all of a sudden I saw this image in my mind's eye. And the image was like of a tall, like building, almost like a skyscraper. And I saw this image then of an elevator. And this elevator, when I walked into the elevator to go up, I looked for the buttons. I couldn't find any buttons. And I'm like, where are the buttons? And then I realized all of a sudden, like, this isn't a normal elevator. This elevator is going to take me to the floor that matches my emotional state. And then when I walk out onto that floor, everything that I encounter, everything that I experience during my time there for that day is going to be a match for that emotional frequency. And so if, for instance, I was feeling, let's say, angry, I was in that moment, I was feeling angry. The elevator doors would close, ding, and be like, right. And it would just take me right up to the floor called angry. And the door would open and I would walk out and my angry self. And then I would encounter everyone else who also was feeling angry and get angry emails. And, it just like, how when you're having one of those days, you're like, gosh, it just keeps getting worse, where you just have one thing after another. And on the flip side, it's like, what do I want to, I could leave angry floor anytime I want. I don't have to stay there. But the only way to leave and go to a different floor and have a different experience is that I have to start feeling a different way. And there's no faking it. There's no like, I feel happy, but deep down I feel really angry, right? Because it's still just going to keep me on the floor that's angry. So I have to curate the emotion of the floor and the experience that I want to experience selfishly, because who wants to be on the angry floor when they could be up on the floor that's full of joy or abundance or freedom or gratitude, because let me tell you, those floors are amazing. And so I ran down and I told Rudi about it. I was like, what a cool metaphor for how we choose to, how we ultimately are all choosing our experience, because it is a choice. It is always a choice. It's unfortunately for most of us, it's an unconscious one, but you can start making a conscious choice, and you can start making a conscious choice every single day, which floor you want to be on. And if you found that you've moved floors midday, better get back on that elevator. And once you learn how to do it, and once you learn how to curate for yourself the emotion so that you start vibrating with that emotion, then things start to move and shift. Your external reality is going to change to match that. And you can make the change so quickly. So did I do a good job explaining the mood elevator?
You did a great job. I want to take it up a notch for the benefit of the audience. And I want to explain the science a little behind how brilliant that download was, and why we immediately turned it into a meditation that we can use, to create and generate emotion. And let's remove the elevator for a second from this analogy. And let's just say you as a person, every single day when you wake up, you open your eyes to your room. And then you walk out of your room and you enter your world, and you go to work, you do what you do. And how you are feeling is essentially going to be filtered through how you view what is your immediate reality, what is your world. When you go into the mood elevator, and you curate an emotion and you open your eyes, knowing there is no actual elevator, right? You're just going to see the same room you sat down in before you closed your eyes, before you generated emotion, before you did anything. The room looks exactly the same, but the room's different because the energy around you is different. The energy of what you're going to be drawing to you is now very, very different. The brain is going to scan all the same information, but it's going to reinforce and bring to you now new information that you would not have seen consciously. It would have been an unconscious program that was just stored. Now you're going to be consciously aware of what is reinforcing that you should keep feeling the way that you were feeling. So if you woke up tomorrow morning and you felt nervousness, anxiousness, anxiety about something, maybe it's a project at work, maybe you're in the midst of a change and you're unsure of what's going to happen next, and the not sureness is creating that fear of the unknown, and so you have anxiety. Well, if you're going to walk out into your world and experience the anxiety inside your body, your brain is looking for only things to reinforce anxiety. It's going to read every email, answer every phone call, respond to every advertisement, all from that lens of anxiety. The fear, the fight or flight reactors are going to be firing, and the room looks the same, the reality looks the same, but it is a very, very, very different environment. But you can go back into your mind, release the emotion of the anxiety, release the attachments to who you thought you were, to what your life looked like, become very calm and very centered. And then you can get into your mood elevator, knowing that the room's going to look identical when you open your eyes. The people in your world are going to be the same in the short term. And then eventually, those people will change and new people will come in to match the new emotion. Eventually, the rooms will change because they'll have to match the emotion. But understanding that when you open your eyes after having gone in and curated an emotion, once you do that, the room has to look the same when you first open your eyes. But scientifically speaking, every single thing in that room is now different. It's just the starting line as you leave the elevator door is going to look the same on every single floor. But what you experience after that is all very, very, very different. You know, we've had those days where you stub your toe on the bed, you drop an F-bomb, you go brush your teeth after you've changed and you've got toothpaste on your blouse or your shirt or your jacket. You get into the car, you spill your coffee, you get to work late because there was traffic, and it's just like you cannot get out of this day. It's just frustration after frustration, and that compounds. That is the example of waking up, feeling that emotion, the brain's looking for the evidence, and you interpret all those things from that lens. But if you were to go into your mind, generate the emotion of joy, happy, fulfillment, freedom, and then you mess toothpaste on your shirt, you wouldn't have the same negative reaction. You'd still have the first initial outcome. You'd be like, oh, crap. Take your shirt off, take your blouse off, take your jacket off, change, put another one on. It would be a minor inconvenience, but you would just keep going because you're in a state of joy. And then the next thing might happen. But again, you're not going to have that same negative reaction. And then eventually your experiences begin to shift and to change. Now, we talk about creation a tremendous amount, and I want to touch on this for a second. The latest scientific research that came out in 2024 tells us that a molecule can vibrate in two places at the same time. And so if you think about all of the molecules that make up your body, if we break it down to every single atom that is inside your physical body, it's just these moving particles of energy. And how you feel is going to make your body move faster or slower, vibrate higher or lower. And the number of atoms and the vibrational frequency is really what determines what the physical structure is that's around you. And if you can manipulate your thoughts or your feelings, you're going to alter the energy of the vibrational frequency of you. And if you can vibrate the atoms in your body, essentially moving the molecules in a certain way, it is now proven through science that you're activating the same molecule in your future. So if you're feeling frustration, you're activating the molecules of frustration in your future, and you're going to be met with more frustration. If you're activating joy, fulfillment, freedom, expansion, love, you're activating all of the physiological state of yourself, the fibers of your being, the cells within your body, and the energetic environment around you to match that frequency. And so here's really what I want you to think about. You know, if you are going to eat something, you essentially become what you eat. If you're going to eat a bunch of carbs and a bunch of sugars, your energy levels are going to crash. You're going to pick up weight. Your body will eventually deteriorate. But if you're going to eat healthy and clean and take care of yourself, you're going to reap the benefits of what you eat. We can understand that. You are what you eat. But you're also, you know, with the same tone, what you think and feel is what you're experiencing next. And so if you think and feel a certain way, you're going to experience that the same way that you are what you eat. And I want you to use that analogy that every single time you're feeling an emotion, you are consuming something that's going to generate a future experience. And is that aligned with the experience that you ultimately want to have?
So how do you curate an emotion? And I think that's what I want to share how I do it. And then I think I'd love for Rudi to share how he does it, because there's, you know, many different ways to go about it. But either way, it's simple. This is like one of the easiest things. And actually, you probably already do this. You just don't do it consciously. So I want you to think for a second about how you feel when you walk in the door. And for those of you that have, let's say, a dog or a cat, and that dog runs up to you and is wiggling around and shaking its butt and the tail is going, and it's like, it could not be more joyful and happy to see you. How do you feel, right? You could have just been in a stressed out mode, or you could have been worrying about something else or yelling at the kids. But the minute you see that dog and then you bend down and you hug your dog, you have a shift. There is an emotional shift within you. I would also say it could be your child. It could be your partner. It could be someone in your life that if you just closed your eyes right now, someone that you love unconditionally, that you just adore, and just by visualizing them and imagining them, you can start to feel the little buds in your chest of love or of joy or of gratitude that are starting to percolate, right? That is the beginning of curating an emotion. So the formula that I like to follow goes like this. I typically do this in the morning. This has become a part of my priming process. I sometimes do this in the middle of the day or towards the end of the day if I feel like I need it. If I check in with myself and I'm feeling off, or I'm feeling like I've, fallen into stress or anxiety, then I can quickly get myself out of it using this process. The first thing that I like to do is to breathe, because I think that breathing and breath work, even if you're just doing it on your own, 4 deep breaths in, 4 deep breaths out, or if you want to do box breathing, 4, 4, 4, 4, whatever that is, breathing is a very quick way to reduce stress and anxiety that you're feeling and to shift your emotional state. It also shifts your brain function and your brain waves it slows down. Okay. It basically slowing down your brain waves so that you can come back to a more neutral space. I find if I go straight from feeling a heightened emotion to saying, now I want to feel love, that it's not as easy for me to curate unless I've primed my physical vessel. And the easiest way to do that is to breathe. So you'll notice if you download the meditation that Rudi, the recording that he generously is offering you, by the way, and it's an incredible, incredible meditation. I think it's 15 minutes. He has several rounds of breathing within that meditation, and for a good reason. So after I breathe, the second thing that I do is I visualize. So based on what emotion I'm wanting to generate. So let's say for this example, I'm wanting to generate peace. Okay. I will think about a time, or I'll go to an image in my mind of when I felt pure peace. Oftentimes I imagine being at the lake. Rudi and there's this one lake in West North Carolina. It feels like this little hidden gem that no one knows about. And it is absolutely stunning. And one of the most peaceful places I think I've ever been. And I imagine how calm that water is in the morning. Like it is so still until Rudi and I get out there and start wake surfing on it. But it is so still and so quiet. And that's oftentimes where I'll go to help me start to generate peace from within. So I'll spend a minute or two just visualizing that until I can start to feel that feeling of peace as if I'm already there. Because keep in mind, your subconscious does not understand what is happening, what's actually happening and where you are versus what you're imagining. So you can use your imagination as a superpower. Anywhere you go in your imagination, you can start to generate feelings as if you were already there, which is why it's such a great manifesting tool. But that's for another podcast, another episode. So after I spend a couple of minutes there at the lake and I'm starting to generate that feeling of peace as if I'm there, then I want to expand that feeling, because my goal is not just to feel a little bit of peace. My goal is to become peace. What that means is I want to spread it everywhere. I want to literally walk out of whatever room I'm in from meditating and embody peace, because I know that if I do that, then I will be met with peace. I will bring peace with me wherever I go. Thus, I'm becoming the change that I want to see in the world, right? So I will expand it and I will breathe into it. I will imagine it getting bigger, and I use my imagination to do this. Oftentimes, then I'll do another round of breath work, because I can then from that state start really breathing and moving it around and circulating it around my body until I feel like it's literally pouring out of me. And that's it. That's it. I mean, I can do it in 5 minutes. I can do it in 20 minutes, but I can also do it in 2. And it's so simple. So Rudi, what is your formula?
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the Empowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over 6 figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudyricksteins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. You know, it's important for people to know that there are roughly 16 main emotional states that you can be in. And in order to go from one emotional state in the old way of thinking, you would have to climb the ladder or the rung, meaning you can't go from angry to exuberant in one step, right? You've got to go from angry to frustrated and frustrated to resent. You've got to climb this ladder to eventually get to a place where you can say, okay, great. You know what? I'm now finally moving up the ladder. I can go to this emotion and now I can go to this emotion. And my experience is very different. And that was through the same story that we shared on the previous episode of just going into my mind and releasing the attachment to the emotion. Rather than climbing the ladder, I got off the ladder and became very calm and neutral. And so my practice every single day, regardless of what emotional state I'm in, I could be in a state where a ton of business is coming into my business. I'm creating so much impact. I'm getting so much external validation. Anniston's looking at me with those cute little eyes that are fluttering. Like my life just seems really perfect. And still, I will go into my mind and go back to my calm, neutral, centered self first, because that's my most powerful self. That's outside of the heightened emotion. That's outside of the ego. It's outside of the insecurities. It's just me, really calm and really still. And that practice is breathing in and breathing out and imagining in the breathing of the white light and then the releasing of whatever color you want it to be. For me, I use the play of color, white and black. So the black light leaves the center of my chest and the black represents stress, fear, and anxiety. Now, I mentioned I do this regardless of whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, because unconsciously, I have no idea what's going on in the back of that mind. I don't know what the unconscious program is doing in that moment. And when you wake up and you start moving around your day, you're drawing in your external environment, and it is already starting to curate how you're going to feel. It's generating emotion, and you might not be present in that moment. So I neutralize all of that emotion right away. Then I'll sit down, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Same cycle breath Anniston's talking about, but I'm doing it to oxygenate the mind, to oxygenate the blood, to, create. It's like the somatic breathing where you really become calm. You create the coherence and the trust between the brain and the body. And that is through the breath work. You also reduce a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety. But now I'm imagining intentionally releasing the stress. Then I focus on where is the stress in my body. It's in my stomach, and I release it out of the stomach, up into the heart, from the heart, out the chest. And I breathe in the more white light from the top of my head, filling my entire body, and then releasing the stress and the anxiety. So I'll repeat this again and again and again. And eventually I will find 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on what's happening, I become very, very calm. Now, to generate an emotion, you can do everything that Anniston said. And if that works for you, stick with it, never change it. For me to jump up the emotional scale, I like to go to a scene in my life where I've already achieved what I like to refer to as my highest and my greatest potential. So for me, I will go and be on stage, 85 years old, 100 years old, 103 years old, and I've got 85,000 people in front of me. I'm jumping up and down. I've got full mobility of my mind, my body. I'm screaming, who do you want to be today? And the audience is screaming back, I want to be powerful. And I just have this moment and I see the scene unfold. And then I'll leave the stage. And as I leave the stage, how am I feeling now? That means I've had a very successful, fruitful career. My family greets me at the bottom of the stairs. We're high-fiving. We're talking about how many people were in the audience that were crying, having breakthroughs. I'm feeling so fulfilled. I'm not worried about anything. I'm just in absolute bliss and awe of the divinity and the beauty and the love that surrounds me, the people. I feel proud of myself for what I've done, how I've poured into people. And so I want to encapsulate a single emotion at the end of what it is that I ultimately want to achieve. And so for me, it's always that state of just awe and exuberance for life. Like, God, how did I get this life? And so I hold on to that feeling. And if I can curate that feeling, even though I know that I'm not 85 years old, I'm not 103, I'm not in front of 85,000 people, and I haven't had that experience physically, my mind and my body do not know the difference. And so if I can generate that emotion, I've now generated the chemicals in my body. The pharmaceuticals are being produced and dumped into the body. I'm feeling high as a kite. I am powerful. I am confident. And I have exuberance literally throughout my physiological state. I love, Anniston, what you said, because it's so powerful. We want to feel an emotion of peace, but we don't always get to a place where we be peace. And we have to become peaceful if we want to experience the peace. Otherwise, it's going to be this momentary little blip, and it doesn't create the shift that moves the elevator to the next floor so that when you walk out, you get to experience a state of being peaceful. Play with both. Play with all of them. There are so many ways of generating emotion. I've likened it to having a sexual fantasy on the podcast before. And I teach this because when you have a sexual fantasy, your body is responding to what's happening in your mind. It's not in your physical environment. Blood's pumping to different places. You physically see there's a reaction happening. And if you can, in your mind, generate a fantasy, a sexual scene that isn't real, hasn't happened, will never happen, but your body shifts and changes to meet or to match that, your body was so convinced that your mind was having the experience that it thought the experience was real, and you physically had the experience. If you can generate an emotion as it relates to sex, like that, then why can't you generate an emotion as it relates to success and have your body change to feeling the exuberance of the success, your hair blowing in the wind of your convertible, or being in the perfect dress on your wedding day? Like, you can generate that emotion. And if you can physiologically feel the shift in your body, now when you walk out into your world, you walk out a little different. And I want to touch on this because this is so important. You become expectant. What I teach is for people to curate their life, their dream life, and expect it. When we walk out hoping to meet the love of our life, we're not in alignment with what we want. We need to generate the emotion of already being in love, and then we will meet the love of our life. And so you've got to create that emotion so that you are now looking at everything in your environment and you're expecting it. Is it now? No. Okay. Maybe it's later, but it's not a state of wanting anymore. It's knowing. You're knowing that it's coming.
I feel like we need to do a future podcast episode on teaching people how to really harness the power of their sexual energy. Because as you were talking about doing, being when you are sexually turned on, and then just through fantasizing, and how you can take that same skill and use it towards manifesting a desire, manifesting how you feel. We call that being spiritually turned on. And I believe, and I know Rudi believes, like, we're meant to be spiritually turned on every single day of our lives. There's no lack of that. And it's right there for the taking. And how does that feel? It feels like being alive. That same excitement you get from being sexually turned on. I mean, what if you got to have that same excitement for your purpose, that same excitement about a creative project, and you feel alive, you're energetic, you're not worried about the next meal you're going to eat, or you're not thinking about anything else except for what you're doing. And it really is, I think, a highway to being, to presence, to being present, and so innately aware of what is going on around you in this like moment of time. And so, yes, future podcast episode. But I think that, just to really sum up this episode today, this is a skill that anyone can learn, no matter what story you have about, I can't do that, or that seems too, I don't have the discipline, or you know what? It's here for you. And when you do the work, you get the reward. And these are the skills that Rudi and I get really turned on about. Like, these are the things that like just get us so excited, because we know from our own personal experience how different life can be, how much more empowered you feel when you have a tool like this in your back pocket to be like, hey, not feeling great today, because you won't. Like, every single day you're on this pendulum, and some days you're going to be at a high and some days you're going to be at a low. There's polarities in everything in this universe. It's a universal law. That doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't mean you fell off the wagon, or you did something, you're being punished because yesterday you were happy and today you're feeling depressed. No, it's just in order to appreciate the light, you got to experience the dark, and they both have a purpose. And so you just need to have the tools to know how to say, you know what? I'm aware that I'm feeling this way. I just don't want to spend all day feeling this way. So I'm going to make a choice. I'm going to do something about it. I don't need my husband to make it better for me. I don't need my children to act a certain way to make it better for me. I get to make it better for me. And when you can be in that state, in that empowering state, then you'll start to realize just how powerful you really are. And as I used the analogy about peace earlier, when it's interesting, I do these little experiments, because I'll choose like whatever emotion that I really want to embody for the day. And then I'll go about my day as that emotion, and really just like so grounded in what that feels like in my body. And I bring it into whatever situation I'm going in. I cannot tell you how many people will actually comment and be like, gosh, Anniston, you're just so peaceful. Like, I don't know what it is about you, but you just bring such a peace and calm to the room, as if it's just a part of my personality. What they don't realize is I consciously curated that. And I'm like, I know, I am, because I spent time this morning curating that. So it's never just about you. You might think this practice is about you, and yes, you get the reward of it, but it's about so much more than you, because this becomes the gift that you give to everyone else around you.
So people often ask me, how do I know that the work works? And I say that the only way to work the work is to do the work. And, if you do it, you're going to know what it's like to create the change, and you will have the evidence that something's changing. You feel better. And if you felt better, would that be relief? Would that give you some relief from where you are, reprieve from the life that you're living? I love to ask as a follow-up, are you happy with your life right now? Is your life exactly the way that you want it? Everything in your life is perfect. You want to put a pin in it. You don't want it to change. Keep it exactly the way that it is. And if it is, great, stay there. But if you want more, then you've got to do something that you've never done, and you've got to change something. And by starting to understand your emotions and how they control and curate your life, and then intentionally selecting an emotional state, and then seeing how your life unfolds, that to me is the beauty. Part of what I do is teach this priming process to do this in the mornings. And then I challenge people, do this for 66 days. And if you ever stop doing it, you're going to get the evidence of what it's like to not do it. And so people say to me, oh, what if I skip a day? I'm like, great. I love it when people skip a day. And they're like, why? You're telling us we have to do it every day. And I'm like, because when you skip it, you're going to realize what you've lost. And that will give you the evidence to keep going. So take what you've learned today, put this into practice in some way, shape, or form, and start to release the emotional attachment to who you used to be, curate an emotion of who you want to be, and then become ultimately who it is that you have come here to be. There is something at the end of this. I fully believe if you've heard this episode, there was a message there for you, and I hope you receive it, because it was sent with a tremendous amount of love and kindness, and also compassion for anybody who is in a tough spot. But I'm going to tell you, this has got me out of many a dark hole. If you loved anything that you've heard here today, if you want to learn more about some of these principles or practices, join me in the Empowered Life community. We've got a link. We're going to drop it into the show notes. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, DM me. I'm more than happy to facilitate some transformation for you into your life so you can go out and live your highest and your greatest potential. If you've got a friend that you think could resonate with today's episode, don't forget to tag them, share it, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. People don't realize how invaluable rating and reviewing a show is. Whether it's our show or you're listening to somebody else's show, go, man, give them a 5-star rating, give them a review, share honest feedback about how you feel about what it is they're doing, because it helps spread the message for podcasters that are out and in the world. So do it for us, do it for them, and give back a little bit to the people that pour into you so lovingly, effortlessly every single day. Thank you so much for joining us. We love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.